In the middle of the Pacific Ocean during World War II, one warship stood above all others. It was the largest, the heaviest, and the most heavily armed battleship ever built. Her name was Yamato. To Japan, she was more than just a ship. She was a symbol of power, pride, and ultimate victory. But her story would end in one of the most dramatic naval disasters in history. In the late 1930s, Japan believed that a decisive naval battle would determine control of the Pacific. But the United States had a huge industrial advantage. America could build more ships, faster. Japan's solution was simple. If you cannot build more ships, build bigger ships. Ships so powerful that no enemy battleship could defeat them. So in total secrecy, engineers began building a warship unlike anything the world had ever seen. At the shipyards of Kure Naval Arsenal, hidden behind massive screens to block foreign spies, construction began on a monster. When the ship was finally launched, the truth stunned everyone. Yamato displaced 72,000 tons, fully loaded. That made her the largest battleship ever built in human history. But her size was only the beginning. Yamato carried the largest naval guns ever mounted on a warship. 9 gigantic 18.1-inch guns. Each shell weighed more than 1.4 tons. When fired, the blast could be heard miles away. One single broadside could destroy an enemy cruiser in seconds. Her armor was equally terrifying. Some parts of the ship were protected by over 40 centimeters of steel armor. To the sailors who served on her, Yamato seemed almost invincible, a floating fortress of steel. But while Yamato represented the peak of battleship technology, the world had already changed. During the war, a new weapon proved far more powerful than even the biggest battleships. Aircraft carriers. Planes launched from carriers could strike hundreds of kilometers away. And even the strongest armor could not fully protect a ship from bombs and torpedoes raining from the sky. Battleships were slowly becoming obsolete. Yet Yamato remained the pride of the Imperial Japanese Navy. For much of the war, she served mainly as a flagship, waiting for the great naval battle she had been designed for. But that moment never came. By 1945, Japan was losing the war. American forces had landed on Okinawa, moving closer than ever to the Japanese home islands. In desperation, Japanese commanders launched a final mission. It was called Operation Tengo. The plan was shocking. Yamato would sail toward Okinawa with only enough fuel for a one-way journey. Once there, she would beach herself on the island and fight as a giant coastal fortress until destroyed. It was essentially a suicide mission. More than 3,000 sailors boarded the ship, knowing they might never return. On April 6, 1945, Yamato left port for the last time. The American Navy quickly detected the approaching battleship. Soon hundreds of aircraft launched from U.S. carriers. Wave after wave of bombers and torpedo planes attacked the giant ship. Explosions tore across Yamato's decks. Torpedoes slammed into her sides. Despite fierce anti-aircraft fire, the attacks continued for hours. The massive battleship began to slow. Then she started to list. More torpedoes struck. The ship rolled further and further. Finally, Yamato capsized. Seconds later, her forward ammunition magazines detonated. The explosion was so powerful, it created a gigantic fireball visible from over 160 kilometers away. It was one of the largest non-nuclear explosions of the entire war. In a single moment, the greatest battleship ever built vanished beneath the Pacific Ocean. More than 3,000 sailors were lost. Today, the wreck of Yamato lies nearly 300 meters deep on the ocean floor. A silent monument to an era when nations believed that bigger guns and thicker armor could win wars. But Yamato's fate proved something important. No matter how powerful a weapon seems, war is always evolving, and sometimes the greatest